we're here with another episode of Beyond the Forum. See, I'm Ashna, the CEO and co-founder of PopToss, and today we're here with the CEO of Cxffeeblack.
Yeah, what's up? What's up? How you doing, family?
Can you share a quick intro about yourself and the company?
So my name is Bartholomew Jones, founder, chief rap officer, you know what I'm saying, of Cxffeeblack. Cxffeeblack is a business built to be able to reclaim the African history of coffee, reimagine a possible future from that, and return us to what I believe is a more human way of interacting with coffee by partnering with indigenous and black farmers out of Ethiopia to build the first all-black supply chain from Ethiopia to Memphis. And we just launched our Wefunder. It's been really successful, really exciting experience. It's my first time using like a crowdfunding campaign for building equity, but I think it's been really dope. Our community's been excited about it, so good to get to know you today.
Great, as well. How would you balance short-term profitability with long-term sustainability?
Yeah, I think we've made a choice to really focus on what we believe is going to be the most sustainable thing for our industry. You see a lot of people making quick cash grabs within the specialty coffee industry, but in a lot of ways, I feel like it's a bit disingenuous because our industry is really built on this kind of like offering of morality, especially when you look at specialty coffee. The idea is, hey, I'm asking the customer to pay more because I pay the farmer more money. In reality, like a lot of businesses kind of fudge the numbers there a little bit, and I think we feel like that creates more unsustainability in the long term, because the idea right now is that we won't have coffee in 50 years, what a lot of the research is saying. And I think unless we're really willing to do our own labor alongside producers and farmers, like we're going to end up in the scenario where there won't be very much coffee for people to enjoy. And so our focus is sourcing from the most disadvantaged farmers. Right now, less than 1% of the money generated by coffee goes to African farmers, even though coffee originates in Africa. In the future, biodiversity that we're going to need to be able to enhance the genetic strength of like the current species that is most widespread, which is Arabica, is going to require either splicing or a replacement from other wild varieties in Africa. So I think it makes sense for us to put the energy into building those relationships and making sure that folks on the ground have sustainable businesses as well. So we chose to source from a pretty small source or a group of people who are able to provide the coffee, but we're doing it in a way where the majority of our money that we pay goes back to people who are connected to that land. I think that's been really important for us. It's been kind of controversial, to be honest. A lot of people feel like, well, why don't you just buy a cheaper coffee, mark it up, and move on instead of paying a higher premium? But again, when I think about sustainability for our brand, there won't be any business to speak of if we don't do the work now to make ethical and sustainable partnerships. And so that's been the biggest thing for us. And then I think another piece that we use is we leverage our creativity as a business. So because I came into coffee as a musician, I originally saw coffee as one of many forms of merch that I was selling. Coffee quickly became like the fastest selling piece of merch, but we still integrate other forms of media into what we do. So it's more of a lifestyle brand as opposed to just being a coffee brand. So we can offset some of the lack of profitability we have with our coffee by introducing other products, apparel, music, documentaries, brand partnerships, things like that.
So what's your background and why are you the perfect fit for this problem?
Yeah, I think I honestly am probably the least conventional fit for somebody to launch like the next wave of what sustainability looks like in coffee. I didn't grow up on a coffee farm. I didn't grow up around like specialty coffee drinkers. Like my family was a very traditional American, like, they drank Folgers. My dad did go to Kenya when he was in college, and so that exposed him to African coffee. And he tried to connect me to it, but to be honest, I didn't like it. Like, I thought it was gross. I went to Starbucks in high school. I just drank Frappuccinos. But I think my perspective as an outsider gives me a really unbiased view on what is happening in the industry because I don't have any loyalty to the traditional perspectives or things as they have been. And the other piece I think that's really interesting is because my family is descendant of American slaves, a lot of the financial models that were imposed on my ancestors, whether it be sharecropping or debt peonage and things like that, are actually still present in the financial models that a lot of coffee farms are forced to work under. And so it gives an interesting perspective. Like when we're working with different farmers, I remember I was having a conversation with one of my mentors, and he was explaining the way coffee works in Central and South America. And he started explaining like, oh, well, the people who are giving the loans for the coffee are also the same people who are buying it. And I asked like, well, do they own the shops in town where people rent their equipment? He was like, yeah, of course. How did you know that? And I was like, well, that's kind of called sharecropping. That's what my ancestors went through, and so I think it just gives us a really unbiased incentive to want to be fair in the way that we do business and not really worry about what business as usual has been in this industry for the last 400 years.
That's awesome. What's been like the biggest challenge that you've been facing running it?
I think our biggest strength is also our biggest challenge. So because I am an outsider, like it's given us a fresh perspective on how we market, how we storytell, the way we brand, the way that we do our like our sourcing. But at the same time, like it's also been a challenge because I didn't go to school for business. I was an elementary education teacher, independent rapper, and you know, we launched a business that hit 6 figures in the first 9 months accidentally. You know what I'm saying? Like it just went viral, and we had a moment and made a choice. Like I had done 1 million streams in my music, and I knew that like I only made $1,200, so it's not really much profit to be made there. But I knew like if we could take that same virality and sell a different kind of product, a product that's ethical, that's from our community, man, there's so much good we can do, so many jobs we can create, so many injustices we can right. But I think the issue is like building a business like that, it only goes you so far. And so like we've been able to grow. We've done over $1 million in revenue at this point. But to get to the next 7 figures and to start doing 7 figures a year, for me, I've had to surround myself with people who are experienced founders, people who've been in the CPG industry before. And I'm really grateful for like the board of advisors we've been able to pull together and the people who've seen our mission and vision and who've known what it's been like to be a minority founder and do it alone. Like people like Martin Mayorga, one of my mentors, who's reached out and said, hey, this is what I did for the Latino community in the 90s. I see what you're trying to build. Let me show you how to build it profitably. Let me show you how to build it in a way that's truly sustainable. And those are the kind of founders that I think for me are the most important to surround myself with. Because even now, like on our Wefunder, the Wefunder's been doing amazing. I've spoken with their team, and like we're one of the fastest growing like launches that they've seen, especially with no VC capital to start. It was purely community, 300 people, $800 average investment, over $200,000 now. They're like, man, this is amazing. But it also lets me know, like, what we're doing is something that, as we raise capital, I want to bring the right people on board to our team to make sure we continue to be sustainable in our growth, not just with, like, the way we source our coffee and the way that we partner with farmers, but the way that we spend the money and spend the capital and make sure that we're with the right folks to bring the right wisdom to the table as we grow.
Great. Where do you see the company going in the next 5 years?
Yeah, our goal within the next 5 to 10 years is really to scale our RTD production. I believe that's one of the best things we have going right now for us. It's been going crazy internally, and so I want to get distributed nationally with that product. We're also looking to be able to launch a series of activations internationally. The concept that we've been able to build for our coffee community is a really interesting one where it's centered on being for, not just in the community, but actually for and from the community. So we've had interest from people in Rwanda, people nationally, some people in Ghana who are looking to like bring a different kind of coffee shop, because there's a whole market or a whole segment of the market that really has not been addressed when it comes to specialty coffee in particular. And I think if you integrate closely congruent practices, there's an opportunity to really expand the experience of what coffee looks like, specifically specialty coffee. And I think we're right at the cusp of being the people to launch that. And so I think that as we grow, we'll have that national distribution for our RTD products, have an expanded offering of like coffee in-person experiences in cafes across the international market. And I'm excited about where we're projected to be, fam. This is a crazy time to be where we're at, but we're excited to be here.
That's awesome. And why did you choose a crowdfunding route, and how do you think it benefits your company as well as your investors?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've had investors approach us specifically in that first year, just made a lot of impact in the coffee industry. And I told everybody no. I was like really averse to the wrong people being on my team. Part of it is just being a kid, reading comic books. Like everybody who's rich and has money is a supervillain. And so I was like very afraid of like Lex Luthor getting in my business and doing dastardly deeds. But I came to realize like there are multiple kinds of investors and like multiple kinds of capital you can get. And so I think me feeling liberated to tell people no and realize when people are wanting to invest in my business, like I have the right to tell those people no, just like they have the right to tell me no. And be very curious about like who are the people who I would automatically say yes to. And it's been our customers and supporters for the last 4 or 5 years. Of course, I would want those people. We've always felt like those people are in the business with us. And so to be able to offer them actual equity has been like a really radical notion in our community, because people feel like, specifically with Black businesses, people feel like this business represents me, this business represents my interests, it represents a certain social good. But to actually make that a tangible representation where you actually have equity in writing in the business, I think is a notion that a lot of folks in our community are really excited about, because now you don't just support me because you trust that I'm going to do what's right for our community. You actually have a stake in profiting with us. And that's been exciting. Even people from the motherland have been able to invest and be partners with us. And we're excited about what the future holds for that as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have for today. Thank you so much for
Shani.
being on the show.
For sure, yo. Thank you for having me.